Good morning. We welcome you from the Marietta Bible College. We're having chapel today. It's Wednesday. Chapel message with the students. We'll be back tonight at 6 o'clock for our midweek service with the church. Beautiful day in Marietta. Sun shining, bright, nice day, dry, but cold. Cold last night. Reminds me of when I grew up. We lived in the country. We had no insulation in the house, no heat in the upstairs. I slept upstairs. Well, I remember those nights when I went up those steps to my room. It was so cold, no heat, and I would sleep there in that country home. That's the way I grew up through elementary school and high school, and I'm thankful for it. Hardship develops people. I'm glad I didn't have it nice and easy and good, or it probably never turned out to work and do anything. So I thank God for it. Today, we're not studying the book of Romans nor Ezekiel. We're looking at the last chapter in John, chapter 21. Let me say something about the last chapter of John, chapter 21. When you read the book of John and you come to the end of the 20th chapter, you would think that's the end. Thomas had just made a great confession. Thou art the Christ, thou art my Lord, my God. You'd think that would have ended it, the book of John, but no. John had another chapter yet to write, and some important things happened in that chapter, and I want to tell you, it's in the book of John because he wanted us to know what's in the word there. And young people, I hope that you get what Jesus taught in those 40 days after the resurrection. What he taught his disciples, it's very important to us because you see he had resurrected, and his teaching to the nation of Israel, which he had done, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, it was over. He's resurrected now. It's a new beginning. People are going to be put together, Gentile and Jew, in one entity, the church. And he is emphasizing in the days after his resurrection that now he's going to direct the operation. It won't be any pleading with Israel or warning Israel. Now, directions for the church. So chapter 21 is very important. Now we read in John chapter 21, we have verse 1 up there. After these things, what things? After his resurrection, after he went to Emmaus and met with people, after he came back to Jerusalem and met on the night of the resurrection with his disciples, after he waited 8 days and met with them again, after these things, after his second meeting with them, then we have chapter 21. After these things, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples. This would be the third time he's met with them since the resurrection. First time, the night of the resurrection, Sunday night, in the upper room. He walked in through the door without ever opening it. The second Sunday night, Thomas was there, made that great confession, my Lord, my God. And then the third meeting was in Galilee. Why Galilee? The angel that rolled the stone back and met Mary there. Who are you looking for? He's not here. He is risen. Now go tell the disciples he will meet with them in Galilee. He's not going to meet with them in Jerusalem. He's not going to meet again with them in the upper room. Going up to Galilee. Why Galilee? Would you think for just a moment what those disciples had been through? They watched him go into Jerusalem riding on the coat of an ass to present himself as king. They saw him rejected. They saw the opposition of the Pharisees against him. They were with him in the upper room when one of their 12 betrayed him and another they knew denied him. They went through that. All of that upset, triumph, rejected, meeting, praying, denying, betraying. And then came the awesome crucifixion on the cross and his suffering. Then the resurrection, but they were confused. The morning of the resurrection, they didn't even believe in it. Now, twice meeting with him, they're going to get out of Jerusalem. They've had a lot of emotional experience in Jerusalem with all of the trouble of the crucifixion, the trial, the judgment, the entry, the rejection, the resurrection. Was it true or was it not? They've been emotionally tore apart, those disciples. Now, Jesus said, go to Galilee. It's quiet up there. We'll get away from this turmoil. He wanted to teach them. I'll meet you in Galilee. So those disciples left to go to Galilee to meet him there. When they got there, did they go looking? Have you seen Jesus? Did they go to Capernaum and say, he did a great work here? Was he here? They went to Bethsaida where he got those disciples. Was he here? No. But they didn't look for him. And they didn't wait for him. Peter, the leader, still the leader. Let's go fishing. Let's go fishing. Now, young people, right here a big argument starts. Why did Peter want to go fishing? Was he through with the ministry? Was he disappointed in what had happened? And he's quitting? And he's going back to fishing? I don't think so. Why were those other disciples there? Oh, young people, that is proof of the resurrection. That those men were together in Galilee. If Christ hadn't risen from the grave, they would not be together. Thomas would be in unbelief and off by himself. Those disciples would have broken up and went in different directions. But they're together. Why? Because they know he resurrected. They know he's alive. And they know he commissioned them. And they're together. There is the great proof of the resurrection. Those disciples would have never gone to Galilee and met if Christ had not come out of the grave. But they are there and they are together to carry out the commission he gave them before he died, before he went to heaven. They are there. That's a great picture. And you know, the devil is clever. He'll bring people along to a place like Peter went fishing, and he'll cause preachers to argue back and forth and preach sermons on why Peter went fishing. That's not what it's teaching. It's teaching that those men are together because Christ arose from the grave. And the devil keeps men from preaching the resurrection and gets them all tied up on why Peter went fishing. It teaches the resurrection. Young man, don't get tied up in little technicalities that cause you to fail to minister the great main message, which is the gospel of Christ, that he died for sinners and rose from the dead. Don't let the devil distract you into arguing why Peter went fishing. Peter went fishing. I don't know if there's anything wrong with that. He at least didn't sit down under a tree and waste his time. The Lord didn't find him sitting. Those men went fishing. Fishing's hard work. Getting a boat ready, getting the nets ready, and all night putting the net in the water and pulling it out, putting the net in, pulling it out. Morning has come. And they're not looking for the Lord. They're getting ready to go home. They came from around there. Go home and eat breakfast and go to bed that day. But as they're coming in a boat, they didn't find him. He found them. There they come in a boat. He knows everything, but he asks questions to get confession. Christ knows everything. If he asks you a question, it's to get you to confess what you are, where you are in that question. Where art thou, Adam? He knew where Adam was. He wanted to hear Adam say and come out from behind a tree. Cain, why are you angry? He knew why Cain was angry. He wanted to hear Cain say it and say why he's angry. Woman, where be thy accusers? He knew where they were. He wanted her to confess. And he asked questions. Wilt thou be made whole? He knew that man needed to be made whole. He wanted to hear him say, yes. All right. And he asked you a question. He knows what's in your mind. What are you doing here? He knows. He wants you to tell him. He wants you to tell him. What are you doing going over there? He knows. He wants to hear you say why you're going over there. Well, I got a meeting in Lower Subobia. He knows it. But why are you going there? He wants to know. He wants you to confess. He wants you to confess what's in your heart today. He wants you to confess. Don't swallow it and put it down inside. It'll rotten you spiritually and even affect you physically if you put everything down inside. He wants you to talk to him this morning. I'm not going to put it down in my heart and cover it up. Lord, I've been discouraged. I laid 8 days. I got depressed. I got discouraged. Lord, I did. I want you to know it. I did. I'm telling you, I'm taking it out of my heart and giving it to you. I've been discouraged. I've been depressed from not being able to preach and physically weak. It's depressed me, Lord. I confess it. I'm getting it out of my heart to you. Now, you got a problem? Just put it down in your heart and cover it up. I'm angry, but nobody will know it. I don't like somebody, but nobody knows it. That's sin, and it will rotten you inside. It will spoil your personality. It will affect you physically to put sin down inside and cover it up. Out. The Lord wants to hear it. The Lord wants to take your burden. The Lord wants to take your care. You discouraged, God, thank you for telling me. I'll do something for you. You depressed? Yes, I'll do something for you. Thank you for telling me. You don't tell him. You live with it. You live with it. Have you any meat? He says to a boatload of disciples that have toiled all night. Why? He wanted to hear them say, no. No. We're defeated. We know there's fish in this sea, but something's wrong. No. They didn't know who it was. I sat in Tammy's motel in Zimbalist. It's elevated, and I'd sit there in the morning at daybreak and eat breakfast. I'd watch those fishermen come in from the South China Sea. I watched the women and the men and the fish merchants go down to the water. The boat and the men would come off with the fish. Some woman would only buy 2 or 3, but another man would buy a sack full. They were fish buyers, fish merchants on that boat in the mist of the morning. Have you any meat? Did you catch any fish? It's a fish merchant. Somebody wants to buy fish. We don't have anything to sell him. We don't have anything to give him. And they said in the darkness, no. They confessed. Then Jesus helped them. Just don't confess, young people. Just take your sin, your problem, your anger, your depression, put it down in, cover it up. It'll rotten you spiritually and affect you spiritually and rotten your spirituality. You have to confess it. Jesus, there's a teacher I don't like. Tell him. There's another student I can't stand. Tell him. Tell him. I'm discouraged. Tell him. I'm defeated. Tell him. They said, no, nothing. They kept coming. Cast your net on the other side. What's he saying? There's fish over here on both sides. Yes, that is true. There was fish on both sides of the boat. But he's teaching them, you've been fishing without my direction. You never found me and asked me what to do. Was it wrong to go fishing? No, but it was wrong to do anything without Christ's direction, because now's a new day. He's directing the church. He's head. So, you fished all night because you never found me and asked me what to do. You served in the flesh because you never asked me what to do. And you've got nothing. You want zero? Just pass Jesus and go do your thing. Do whatever you want to and never ask him and never get his direction and blessing. You'll come up with zero. Because without Him, you can do nothing. Cast your net on the other side. They cast it over. They brought out 153 fish. Then somebody takes off on a wild theological trip. 153 fish means 153 nations that need to hear the gospel. There's 153 nations in the world that we need. What are they doing? How come 153 fish? Because there's men, and when men went out in the boat and fished all night, they divided the catch. They counted it to divide, to that man his portion, to that one his portion, that portion. And they didn't lose any. In Luke, there's a story that they went fishing and the nets broke and they lost. If you go without His direction, you may look like you're getting a big catch and it falls through. But that morning, not one fish was lost. Not one. Cast your net on the other side. Cast it again. Cast it again. Young people, somebody in here said, I'm going to read the Bible through this year. But you've already quit. What do? Start again. Well, I was going to pray every morning. And for 2 or 3 mornings I did. I prayed for my mother. I prayed for my pastor back home. I prayed for my teacher here. I prayed every morning. Something happened. I don't do it anymore. Cast your net on the other. Do it again. Start again. Start again. Put your net on the other side. Well, I started out. I really admired our preacher and wanted to be like him. So I started preaching. I thought I was called. Then it got to be hard and it got to be difficult to study. And every time I preached, I got tangled up and everything. So I don't like to preach. I quit. Start again on the other side at the direction of Jesus. He didn't direct them the night before. They didn't need Him. They never asked Him. They did it on their own. They got nothing. Cast it on the other side. Well, I set out to win souls. I just wanted to win somebody to Christ. And I started talking to people. Now, I don't even have a burden for a lost soul. What do? Start again. Cast your net on the other side and start again. And they were fruitful. Start again on Bible reading, on prayer, on witnessing, on doing things in your life that you need to do that you started and you quit. Start again. He didn't say, you're through. No. Put them over on the other side. Do it at my direction. There's fish on both sides. No, yes, but follow my direction. Put it on the other side. He wanted to see if they'd follow him. John said, it's the Lord. It's not a fish merchant. That's the Lord. No other disciple knew Him. John did. Why, John lived close to Him. He laid his head on Christ's bosom. He was at the cross when Christ was standing there. He was at the tomb and the first one to recognize the clothing. He lived close and he knew Him. You know when Jesus is in something or not in something if you know him. He knows where you want to go on deputation if you know him, if you're close to him. But if you're so far from him, you can't even sense his direction. Zero. So, it's the Lord. It's the Lord. Boy called me from Kenya, went to school there, sat in those chairs, told me what's going on. I said, it's the Lord. It's the Lord doing that. It's the Lord. The man in the Philippines, he went to school here, he went back home, and he just got a work that's just growing by leaps and bounds. It's the Lord. It is the Lord. See what the Lord is. It's the Lord. Then he said, come and dine. Jesus had breakfast ready. He had to build the fire. The fire was already there and burned down to the coals, which means Jesus gathered some wood and started a fire, and it was there until it had burned down to the coals. Just a few embers, but heat. Bring some fish. Come and dine. Come and have food with me. Come. That's why John wrote that chapter. Show us how to be directed by Christ since he resurrected. That's our lesson. So, thank you for watching today. Thank you for being with us. We'd like to hear from you. Why don't you click in, tell us you heard the message. Till tomorrow, take care. Have a good day. Goodbye.